This episode may contain stories of domestic violence. Please be advised. Welcome to the Sage Advice Podcast, where each week we sit down with people just like you who have left abusive relationships and found healing. Don't forget to check out our website, sage.community, because together we can survive abuse with grace and empathy. Now sit back and get comfortable. The Sage Advice Podcast starts right now. Hi there. Welcome to the Sage Advice Podcast. This is Erin. We're going to dive right in today with our guest. She is a blast from my past. We traveled Europe together and shared a lot of great memories. She has requested that we don't divulge her name, so we've decided to refer to her as Kay. She was the first person to reach out to me wanting to tell her story. So please welcome Kay to the show. Hi, friend.
Hey.
Thanks for coming on.
I'm happy to be here.
I'm glad. I'm happy to see your face. I know we caught up a little bit before, but it's been a long time.
Yeah, we've kept in touch over the years, I would say, but definitely could have done better.
Yeah.
And it's a shame to, a shame and a good thing to have this be a reason to reconnect.
There's always positive and the negative, right?
Exactly. Definitely the positive part is being able to talk to
reconnect. Again. We have, so many European memories to catch up on that we will not share with the viewers or the listeners.
Many. We could bore you.
So first things first, why did you feel like it was important to come on the show and share your story? And I want to tell the listeners, I really don't know the details, so this is new for me as well.
Well, I got out of a relationship about a year and a half ago, and it's been quite the roller coaster. It's honestly been since the day that I finally got him to leave. It was really hard. I'm not going to lie. It was really, really hard. And everybody I've talked to said that I've done so great, and I've just been so strong, and I know that I have. But to me, this part has been as hard as it's been. Leading up to that was worse. And like everybody I've said, you feel a sympathy too, right away. Oh, I'm so sorry. And it's like,
yeah.
I'm like, really? If you want to be sorry for me, be sorry for me like 5 years ago, 7 years ago.
Well, but to be fair, were you really sharing with them all the details 5 years ago?
No. And I don't mean that in a way of like, oh, you weren't sorry for me then. I'm just saying, if you want to have any sort of sympathy for me, feel sorry for the person that I was then and what I was dealing with then. Because right now, like, it's nothing but up.
Yeah.
I'm doing great. Yeah, it's hard. And like, there's been hard times and there's still going to be. But like, this, I would rather do a million times over than get back in that situation and try to get my way out of that again. Because that was bad.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring that up, because when I launched the episode of, my story, I got a lot of people I had to remind myself that was the first time that they were hearing it. And it was like the millionth time that I was hearing it.
Mm-hmm.
And I just didn't, I didn't want the sympathy so much, but I really had to remind myself, like, listen, it took you time. It's going to take other people time, and they just want to show you the love. But it is difficult. So I get what you're saying.
Oh, yeah. And I totally appreciate everything everybody said to me and has done for me. And I don't mean to say like that. I just, right now I'm doing great. And like this time several years ago, I was hanging on. But,
yeah.
This is just so much better. I'd rather deal with this. And it was a hard thing to get out of. There's children involved and marriage, and it's not that easy to just get out of, and it was scary. And like I just was like, God, I wish that I had somebody to tell me what to do back then, and like help me, guide me the way out and what I needed to do. And like one time, a few months, I guess, before it actually ended, I did reach out to one of those like 800 numbers I don't even remember which one it was, but one of those like domestic violence numbers. And because I was just like at my wit's end, and I listened to your podcast earlier about that you had with Eva, and about how like some people, you guys had talked about how most people leave like 7 times before they actually are able to like leave for real.
Yeah.
And I never actually left, but like in my head I did, like there was so many, I guess I just like went through like all of that in my head, and I kind of like shut down from the relationship from within, but was never actually able to leave. But then I called one of those numbers, and they were like, she helped me a lot and kind of gave me, because like at that point, like at that moment, like I knew something was going to be done. And I had been trying to work my way out of it for a couple of years, even before that, but I was scared to like make the move. And
it's scary. It's definitely scary.
Yeah. Because I was like, so I had been dealing with so much, and I didn't know like how to even get out of it, because being married to this person, and I don't even know where to begin here. Maybe I should start from the beginning.
Let's start at the beginning. Because we got back from our European adventures, where I forced you to learn all the history of ancient Greece. And
I liked it.
Thank you.
And you forced us to learn how to operate many different types of showers.
There we go. I mean, European showers are very tricky. There's a lot of different mechanisms of action going on. So thank you for the shout out. So we got back around like 2016, right? I think. And so how long after did you meet your ex? Because
we were done in 2006.
Did I say 16? Well, I think I'm way younger than I am, apparently.
Oh.
So 2006. Okay. So like how did you meet your ex? I don't think I even know.
So we met in 2008.
Okay.
But we actually like knew each other before we went to the same high school. So we had a lot of the same friends. We didn't really like know each other, but we had a lot of the same friends. So we met through mutual friends.
Okay.
And he was just getting out. Shocking when I tell you this, I know, but he was just getting out of another marriage. It didn't work out. But so,
shocking.
I know, right? But like, when I was back then, like when you'd just been around me for a long time. I was fun, like I loved life. I partied all the time. We were always going out and having fun, living the life, no responsibilities, traveling. Like I traveled, even all the travels we did, but like I traveled constantly. There was a couple years before that. Like I went on a trip every month. I mean,
I remember you talking about that.
Yeah. Like I traveled, like we went to like 16 states, 6 countries. I don't remember. There were so many. It doesn't even matter, but it was just fun, just living the carefree life. And then, I was later in my 20s, and I wasn't necessarily ready to settle down. I didn't think, but, part of you kind of thinks, well, I guess I'm kind of supposed to now, because I'm going to be
clock. I know. We just talked about the clock ticking. Yep. Exactly. It's loud.
Yeah. So I'm like, well, I guess it's time. And like, I wasn't looking for anything. And, I've had some other relationships that, were nothing like this, but, I just was like, I don't even care. I'm just done. It's going to be me. And then, I reintroduced to him. And, we got along right away because we have tons in common, and we have tons of the same friends. And like I said, he was just getting out of a marriage, and from his, and now I know there's 2 sides to every story, but from his point of view, to me, it was horrible for him, and he was just so unhappy and miserable, and it was just a terrible life, and always everything blamed on the other person, of course. And come to find out later down the road, I mean, there's definitely a lot of truth to that on both sides. Like I think the 2 of them together were just horrible, toxic people.
Yeah.
And I don't know, that doesn't matter. But either way, like he was easily fall for somebody like that. That's like a wounded bird type thing.
Yeah. And you have the helper, like the empathy, the helper mentality. And
that's exactly what I have. And
you come from a good family, and And like, you know, you always talked so well of your parents and how much they wanted, you know, they were good people. They wanted to help. I mean, your sister and your brother too. And yeah, like, unfortunately, sometimes that can be taken advantage of.
Oh yeah. So you feel bad for the guy, and then he had children as well. So it was basically like, you know, he was so heartbroken over not being with his kids. And like me working with kids my entire life since I was 15, like, of course, like, oh my gosh, like that must be devastating. I can't imagine, you know, so you automatically like feel bad for the guy.
Yeah.
And then I also had friends that were like, especially a really, well, I thought actually, but was a really close friend of mine, was like, oh my gosh, he's such a great guy, like vouching kind of for everything that he said. So I was like, okay, like, and was still a little apprehensive because it was like everything that I didn't want. Like I never wanted to like be with somebody that already had kids or all that drama, you know, and I was just like, but I was like, you know, you're getting older, like how not really, most people have stuff like that, you know? So try to be more open-minded, give it a try, you know? So, you know, time goes on and we got married and
I was there.
Yes, you were there. And you know, I was happy. It wasn't terrible. There was like in hindsight, especially now, knowing what I know, there were moments leading up to that where it was like sketchy things that happened. And it was like, I should have known, but like, I wasn't going to know then. But,
right. It's hard to know unless you've already like been on the other side or you're on the outside, you know, looking in, you can kind of see it. But when somebody's in that like fog or that, you know, love connection, it's really hard to see.
It really is. And like, I don't know if you, and something that stuck out to me too, like when your podcast earlier with Eva, thinking too, like you almost make excuses for people too. Like you just kind of get used to it too, you know, like making excuses for them and like sugarcoating things and making things seem better than they are, you know, and then you like kind of ignore one thing and then it like leads to another that's even bigger, but you never really realize how bad it was until you look back and you're like, oh my God, I cannot believe I dealt with all of that stuff.
Yeah.
You know? But there was things like, when he would act like we would like go out and, you know, party and things like that, but not too much. We didn't really go out that much, but you know, a few times when we did, like we just did these bizarre, like ridiculous things. And I was just like, what the heck is that? And it was just like, well, kind of chalk it up to, well, I mean, nobody's perfect. Like how many other people have I ever seen do ridiculous things when they're drinking? You know?
I don't know if it just came to mind, but I don't know if you've been accused of that, but like people used to tell me that I was way too picky. And then I would think about that and think, oh, well, maybe that I think this is weird because people say I'm too picky.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm like, maybe I shouldn't think it's weird, or maybe I shouldn't think it's off. That's kind of how I would rationalize things.
Oh yeah. Because you think it's like, well, what have I done if I'm drinking and doing stupid things? And I've done stupid things. But,
yeah.
I mean, but the stupid things that I do are like literally just stupid things, like being funny and just maybe being annoying sometimes, or like laughing too much, or being too silly or too immature, you know?
Or walking into a pole in Switzerland.
Yes. Like things like that.
I wasn't even drunk when I did.
You don't have to be drunk to do that stuff.
But yes, you know, like the funny stuff, not the serious, nasty behavior thing.
Yeah, like I've never ever in my life like had to like drinks and then acted like angry at people and nasty and mean and like, you know, just done bizarre things, like just these random like outbursts of emotion and rage and thing, not necessarily directed towards me, but like just directed in general. And it's like
rage at the world. Any little thing will piss them off, or like anybody looking at them funny, or
and it got like concerning, you know, like, but just to the point of also like, well, nobody's perfect. And also maybe he just, you know, we're going to be 30. We don't need to be going out. So I was 30. I was in my 30s, you know, early 30s, but it was like, we don't need to be going out all the time. I don't want to go out all the time like that anymore anyway, you know? So it was just, so then it also became like, I'm a babysitter when I would go out. Like in the very beginning, it was like one of the things he did was like, you know what? I want you to have fun, and I want you to like go be with your friends and do this and that. So I'm not going to drink, and I'm going to drive and let you have fun. And I was like, whoa, like that's pretty
I know where
awesome.
this is going.
Yeah, but I'm like, that's awesome, you know? Like, I don't have to worry about anything. Like, wow, like, because I'm so used to taking care of everything for myself. It's like, hey, someone's going to take care of me now. But like,
yep,
that didn't work out.
Nope.
That worked out for a little while, like, and then all of a sudden that slowly ended. But then it turned out to be like, you know, I'm babysitting all the time. Anytime I went out, it was like, we have to like worry, like, what kind of ridiculous thing is he going to do? How am I going to get embarrassed tonight? Or who's he going to be mean to tonight of my friends?
Yeah.
So I just
friends or the wait staff. Mine was so mean to the wait staff.
Oh yeah. Or yeah. And like, or just like pounding on the tables for like no reason, just to be like loud and annoying and to like, I think to like show like your assertiveness, like what a big guy you are, you know, and like to get attention and trying to pick a fight with people sometimes, you know, like people we don't know. And or either that, or it would be like over the top, like way too nice to people and like, you know, hugging on people. And it was like, really? Last night you want to kill everyone. Tonight you love everyone. Like,
did you find though that people found that suspicious?
Oh yeah.
Because I would see him try to do that and, you know, like in my situation but then I could see other people's faces. Like they didn't really believe it.
Oh yeah. And like, I had some friends, you know, most of my friends, I never lost any of my friends, I would say.
Because you're a good person.
And I have good friends, but most of my friends, all of my friends, not most, all of my friends and my family didn't want anything to do with them. They couldn't stand them, you know, not in the beginning, but they all, you know, caught on a lot quicker than me, I guess. And they didn't want anything to do with him. Like if he was gonna like be with me going somewhere, like my friends like we didn't really want to go. Like we went to the beach. My friend's parents have this place at the beach, and we went a couple of times, and he just made it the most miserable time of our lives ever. It was horrible. The car ride was bad. The time there was bad. You know, any moment where he wasn't asleep was horrible.
Yeah. And like, I lived that kind of beach trip. Yep.
My friend was like, okay, I love you, but like, I can't travel anymore with you again if he's here. Like, I can't do it. I can't do
it. No, I totally understand. It's just hard. It's like you've seen a good side. And so you're always thinking that maybe that good side will come back.
Right.
And then you've invested so much time.
Right. And they just don't know him like I do.
Yeah.
And like, also like we're married. And it's like, to me, I guess to most people it should too. It's, you know, you make it work for better or worse. You know, like I married this guy. Like I'm not going to just turn my back on him because he had a bad weekend.
Yeah.
Or tell him, you know, whatever. So it just, I don't know. It just got, after we got married, it definitely got worse and more often. The little outbursts of stuff. It wasn't generally directed towards me though. Like I could usually always like calm him down or like diffuse the situation, you know. Mm-hmm. He would like act out and like it would be like the rage would be towards somebody else or something or just for no reason, or he would just be weird and crazy and yelling and screaming and just trying to act like he's this big intimidating guy. But then usually like I could, you know, talk to him or pull him to the side or something would happen and like, you know, make a kind of diffuse it.
Yeah.
But that went away too. But
they can't keep the facade up forever.
Yeah. Like I think like that he let it go a lot more after we got married too. Cause it was like, I feel like the thought was probably like, oh, well, now we're married. Like you can't just leave me, you know, like, because I don't think that he was ever not this way. I think he just was really good at hiding it.
Yeah.
And really good at picking out people like you guys talked about earlier. I know I've talked about your friend Eva so many times, but I listened to that podcast earlier and it was like so true. So much of it that I could relate to. But I don't care. I forget where we were going with this.
It's okay. No, it's
I have like so many things in my head to even get out. But so anyway, we got married. I feel like you are, it's harder to leave the person.
Yeah. What, was it a mutual decision with the kids, or how did that come about?
Have children?
Yeah.
To have them, you mean? Okay. So, I got older and, a little bit older, and, I wanted to have my own children. I had a stepkid. We only saw for visitation or whatever. And like I said before, that's a whole nother entirely different crazy situation, because I don't know. I don't even want to go there.
We don't need to go down that road.
I don't even want to go down there right now. But, I loved them, and I had a great
But you
time
wanted your own, totally understandable.
Yeah, and I wanted to, they weren't with us all the time, and there was always a big fight going on with them, and they were not like allowed to like me because whatever reason, because like I said, they have it bad on both ends. But I wanted my own kids, so
yeah,
we got a little older, and all the while, I had my first child in 2016. So from 2011, when we got married, to 2016, on top of all the outbursts and craziness of the violent, ridiculous outbursts and stuff, I have also supported him through many rehabs for his addictions, his alcoholism and drug addictions. There were drug addictions that were actually hidden really well, because I was mainly just dealing with alcohol, I thought. But all of that, there was a lot more. There was a lot more going on than I knew. But his alcoholism got so bad. I mean, he wasn't working. He never worked. We talk a lot about how like the abuser kind of keeps the woman in check per se by maybe not letting them work, or only letting them make minimal amount of money, things like that.
Or just really being crazy about the money. Yeah,
exactly. So my situation is not that case. I got an ultra good one, because he wouldn't work and made me make all the money so he could spend it.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was really cool. And so throughout all this, he was drinking, so he would sit at home and drink all day, and come home. And I would come home from work after working my butt off all day, and come home and be criticized for the dinner that I made wasn't good enough or something like that.
Hey, I've eaten your dinners many times, and you're good, very good. They're good.
I know. I don't even need
shepherd's pie.
Oh yeah, and it's gotten even better since we first hung out.
Okay,
I really amped it up, but it wasn't nothing wrong with anything I made. He just wanted to be a jerk, So it was sitting around drinking by yourself all day, and then waiting. Oh, here comes somebody I can yell at when they get home,
Yeah.
So it was just we had many arguments, many discussions about it, many ultimatums, you need to quit drinking or this is over. So he went into live-in places for rehab, not just AA meetings. It was went to AA meetings, but it was just, live-in places where I would take him and support him and go to visit him and send him letters and send him everything he needed to have, because, while he's there, and, dutifully come on visitation times with my bag full of crap that he needs, the clean clothes and the candy, or, whatever it was that you were to have, and cigarettes, and, he had everything he needed.
So after the kids came, did that all change?
Well, no, he didn't. So, in 2016, he had been on, and I'm just going to say a rough count right now, because I don't really want to sit down and count in my head. But to probably 6 live-in rehabs by then.
Oh man.
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
Yeah. And every time he would come out, he'd be great. This is, commitment to this wonderful life, and he's going to be better, and has all these folders full of all these stuff he's worked on, and, blah, blah, blah. Now this last time, it was actually out of state, and before my son was born, and that was such a big deal. And it was this was the last straw, and he did it on his own. He found the place, went, even got on a plane, which was unheard of. He would never get on a plane, and all this extravagant show of how he was going to change. And then, I even was through all the different rehabs, and did I not support him enough? And I know I did. Especially looking back, I know I did, but it's like, maybe I didn't do enough.
Yeah.
Maybe I didn't do enough to support him. Like maybe like blah, blah, blah. And, you just want to think about, oh, he's so depressed because he had a horrible childhood, lots of horrible things.
And that's where they play into your empathy, right? That
terrible,
wanting to help, wanting to fix.
Right. So, terrible parents, or at least mother especially, and terrible childhood in general with lots of things, and growing up with alcoholics too. And then the whole missing his children thing. And then he's just drinking like this because he misses his kids.
Right. You rationalize it.
Right. But then it got... so I ended up going to like Al-Anon and stuff too. Because I was like, well, maybe I never did it. I attended AA meetings with him before and did that kind of stuff. I supported them in every way I knew how, but I never did that. So I was like, well, maybe I need to do that. Maybe like that's the missing piece, maybe I didn't, I need to do that with him. And like, I quit drinking every time with him too, all that. So he was great actually for a while. And it was like, he finally had a job, and actually a good job. For once in his life, a good job. And it was like, well, this is when we should have a kid, and I'm like, well, he won't go back to that way because we'll have our own child that's going to be here all the time. And if he really wants to see his other children more, then he's going to have to like stay this way,
Yeah.
So, and I was into my later 30s, and it was like, well, what am I going to do? Like I want to have a kid, and here we are. So we had a kid. And before the child was born, I guess, the first few months, he was, I guess, at least still playing the charade of that he was going to be sober and stuff. But he wasn't, like, because with this job that he had was also the freedom of having his own money.
Grabbing a beer after work.
And being able to stop anywhere he wants on the way home. Because at least here, when he wasn't working, it was like more controlled. And like, I gave him money to buy stuff because I had to, because it's either give it to him or deal with the other person. Because it's like, he doesn't need the alcohol to be a crazy jerk like that. Like the alcohol just doesn't help. And it's just another problem in itself. But the violence and all of that type of temper, the alcohol doesn't matter if it's there or not. That's just who he is.
Yeah.
So it was like, deal with one or the other. Well, at least if I give him the beer, he might leave me alone for a while and just go out in the garage or something,
Yeah, so, but that's self-preservation. I mean, that's kind of where you get to. That's what you have to do.
You have to. So that's what I did. And
did you tell your parents anything, or did they know a lot of what was going on?
They knew a lot. They don't really know every little detail, but like they know enough that like, I mean, how can a dude sit around and not work all day, and then would try to like create projects here to like, make himself appear to be valuable to us to do things for the house. But then it was always just like, it just turned to like a fight of everything. And then you have to spend so much money to get him to do it. Oh, well, if I'm going to do this, then I need like all of the best of all the supplies of everything to do it, and it was like, it'd be cheaper to just hire contractors and deal with all this. You don't do anything, to be honest, I'm doing all that stuff now and I'm doing a better job. But that's a whole nother story too.
Yeah.
But so they know a lot, but not like every little bit, but they know enough. And they also, like, one of the things too, like they had talked to me before, and like, if you want to leave this guy, because they could hear like arguments, like, and they couldn't hear everything, and they didn't intentionally try, like they would never eavesdrop, but like there was times that he would intentionally be as loud as he could be because he wanted them to hear. And then it got to a point later, I was like, okay, let me go get them. Let's go tell them that. And then he would get even more mad because I was like, well, I called his bluff. I was like, all right, you tell them I'm not. So
man, the bluff. They love the bluff, man.
Oh yeah. Well, I would go do it and be like, okay, so yeah, here it is. And then we would get even more mad, and it was just, it never was really beneficial to do that, except for just for me to try to, like, I guess, find someone else to tell what's going on. Like I have one friend that you met before. A couple friends that you met before, actually, that knew a whole lot of what was going on. But my one that, like, I grew up with since I was a kid, she pretty much knew, like, most of everything, but even not every little detail either.
Yeah.
Because it got, like, the outbursts and stuff like that were really bad, but then it did end up turning on me too. And it was never like physical, like I wasn't like physically abused, but it was like the threat of it. He was threatening me all the time. And if I didn't like, I wouldn't back down though. And then it would like escalate worse. Like if he didn't like have me cowering in a corner, which is really hard to do for him, because I wouldn't let him get to me that way. Then his threats would like escalate. Like, okay, so if you're not gonna like do what I say because of that, well then I'm gonna hurt someone that you love, you know? And then he would like say this and then threaten people that I love, or to like, you know, I'm gonna burn your house down, you know, things like that.
Yeah. And it's like, amazing though, like how, you know, it's like, do they all read the same book? Because this is exactly the stuff that I would hear. And I'm like, and it's got to be somewhere in some makeup or like manipulation guide or something to use the same tactics of threatening and scaring and trying to beat you down mentally so hard that you're in the corner and like just not being able to process when you don't.
Right. And then like punching holes and stuff and punching things and breaking things and stuff like that, you know? And so when I was pregnant, it was okay at first, and then it got worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And I think and then after he showed up at the hospital. I had a scheduled C-section, so there was no question when this was going to happen. You know? And like actually went into hospital unexpectedly the night before, and they kept me overnight, and like I had the C-section the next day, and it was like in the afternoon, like early afternoon, and he showed up trashed. Like he snuck beer into the hospital room. I was like, what in the world is this? And I'm like half drugged up too, you know, I'm in the hospital, you know, they're giving me medicine and I just gave birth, you know, it's like, it's a lot you're dealing with. And I'm like, couldn't even believe like what was happening. And it just got worse after that. And at that point I was like, you've got to be kidding me. Cause I had suspicions that he was like drinking leading up to then. But it was like just undoubtable then. And like the nurses and everything, because he would like come in and like, hey, you know, and act like he's this wonderful doting father, and then like pass out on the couch in the hospital room. And like the nurses like come in and out all night, and they're like, I guess when like the father's there, they're used to like being very minimal, like come in, oh, how are you doing? Let me check your blood pressure. Everything's great. Okay, bye. Not like change the baby's diaper and do all this and that, because the father's laying like, you know, get up. Like they're looking at him like, why are you here? Like, you're not doing anything. You're not helpful. Why are you here?
It's because at the end of the day, it's about him and being a father, and it's his day, and it's not that I just had a baby.
Right. And it's that he doesn't want, he wants the like the trophy of like, look at me, I'm a dad, I'm a great guy, but like he doesn't want any of the responsibility of it. So it was like embarrassing. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. And I just knew at that point, I was like, this is not going to be good. And I honestly didn't want to leave the hospital. I didn't want to go home. So I was like, this is going to be terrible. I my gut knew it, because every time he got out of rehab, he was good for like, you know, a month, 6 weeks, maybe 3 months. It just depends. But every time he would start drinking again, the behavior would escalate worse every time. And like the last time was so bad. And I was like, so if this pattern continues, now I have a child, what's going to happen now? And he's drinking, he's showing up drunk at the hospital. Like, come on, you know, like that's just ridiculous. So
you're going to be surprised to hear that we're running out of time, but you can come back. I love talking to you, so you can go back anytime.
Oh yeah. I was just going to go for the exit strategy right then. So we can save that for next time if you want, because all of that, what I just said kind of leads up to.
Yeah. Well, why don't we save it? Because we do have some episodes on leaving coming up, but it is a very complex conversation, and I'd love to talk to you about it soon.
There's no way that I could cram 11 years into 30 minutes. So.
I know. If there's one thing that you could say though, before we sign off, to anybody that could be listening who had been in your position, what kind of advice would you give right now?
Keep track of things. If you are serious about trying to you're going to get out of this situation, and you know that you're going to, and you want to, and if it's truly abuse, and especially if there's children involved, or, that you need to be able to document that this person is unstable, and you need to take notes of things that happen and document things, take pictures if you can, do it safely so that they don't know. That's how I did. But you have to write things down and keep track of things, because it'll also help you remember. If nothing else, if you don't need it for anything else, it'll help you feel good about that you're doing something towards leaving, even if you can't physically do it at the time. It made me feel good that I was at least making some kind of steps towards it. And if I ever had any doubt that like I wasn't doing the right thing, or that I could just go back and read an entry and be like, oh no, I remember that day. That was bad. Because you forget things.
You do.
Like you forget it because it happens so much, and then, you just forget it. And that would be my advice if you're serious about leaving. And also to get help. Call one of those numbers. They help you. They really do. Or like call Aaron. Call me.
On the website, it's www.sage.community. So we have a whole resources page, and that's for emergency services. We have an article up there for emergency suggestions. Sage is not for emergencies. If you are, in trouble, in fear, please call the police or victims advocacy groups. I may want to make sure to say that. But check out that article, because as Kay said, we have some stalking logs in there. And, she talked about the importance of writing everything down. But that is so important for the legal system to have time, dates, times, a description of the incident, because they really like paperwork.
Yeah.
So
if you think you're going to have to take legal action or prove anything, that is the best way to do it.
Yeah. Well, thank you for coming and sharing your story.
Thank you.
I love catching up with you, and let's schedule another time to talk about leaving, because that's a big conversation, and it's important to have.
Yes, absolutely.
All righty. We'll see you everybody next week. Check out the website for those resources, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.
Well, that's our show. Thanks for listening. If you have any questions, or if you're willing to share your story, please email us at sageadvicepodcast@gmail.com. Until next week, remember, when you're kind to yourself, the healing can begin. See you next time.
This show was brought to you by inflowradio.com, the best curated talk radio network for personal development, wellness, spirituality, and conscious business.
If you or someone you love is in immediate danger, please call the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-SAFE. That's 1-800-799-7233. For more information, please see the resources tab at sage.community.